Karen, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your movie. For anybody listening, tell us about your film.
My film is named Armageddon Road, and it is a 1976 set grindhouse psychedelic horror about, I guess, an ex-con, Steve, who is hired to drive a prostitute just around for the evening, and he ends up going on an adventure with her when she ends up not exactly who she is.
And we were just talking off camera, and I've watched this twice. I absolutely love this film.
Oh,
The way
thank
it's
you.
shot. The first question I have for you is, where did the story come from? Because this is a hell of a story.
I wrote it in 2014, and it was after my dad passed, and I think I was probably in some state of, I call it a fugue state, where your brain isn't quite wired right, but you think you're fine, but you're not fine. And I think I wrote it almost like a fever dream in a just in almost in a single pass, like a short story to myself. And then I ended up adapting it, and that was in, yeah, it was almost like it wrote in one fell swoop.
Yeah, because as the movie progresses, I'm like, there's something there's something wrong with this chick. I just don't know what it is. And then it pops off near the end. Like, where did you film this? Because one of the things I like about your film is just the environment and how old it looked and how gritty this film felt to me.
Thank you. Funny enough, when I wrote it, I had never been to Las Vegas, much less been in a time machine to go into the 1970s Vegas. So I think in some ways, maybe that unreality is because I hadn't been there. We finally went to Vegas and basically to do those backgrounds. So a lot of those backgrounds that you see in the opening, those were my cameraman and I, cinematographer Thomas Billingsley and I driving around Vegas with a rental car and a 360 camera. You know those round ones that you use for Google Maps? We
Yeah.
bought one of those and stuck it on, and we drove around and did all the background plates. And it's a combination of miniatures, which is what we used, and we used the volume wall. And those are like, so we use miniature cars. And we had a miniaturist, Gary Young, who built this entire environment of like this weird little fictional Nevada desert for me. And yeah, so it was a combination of using miniatures, and then we put them on the volume wall. So we made little things and we made them big again. And then we put our actors in the little, like in the big world, because I couldn't shrink them down.
That's awesome because it felt like it was I was in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That
And,
is
and
wild.
That's cool. Well, that's exactly what they used to use back in the days of like the A-Team and Starsky and Hutch and Dukes of Hazzard, all those car chases and stuff. Those were all done with little miniatures. So,
Wow. Were you like an actual fan of all the Grindhouse films, like growing up and whatnot? Because
yeah,
it felt like a love letter to a Grindhouse film mixed with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
absolutely. I grew up in like a fairly small town in Manitoba, Canada, and we're just north of Minot. That should tell you everything. We're north of north of North Dakota, and basically it was like a small prairie town, and we had drive-ins, and I grew up watching the VHS, basically, Be Kind, Rewind, and so there was a lot of rentals and a lot of that type of movie for sure. That was my experience. And like I think the movies my dad loved. He loved revenge films, so I was always watching old Charles Bronson films and Sergio Leone, and so you can see all those influences as well.
I love a good revenge film though because the bad guy's going to get it by the end, so you just
Uh,
got to strap in for it.
absolutely.
What has this experience been like for you making this film, and now you're about to go on the road from town to town and just talk about your film with everybody?
Oh, it's been an incredible ride because it's been 12 years. It took me, I wrote it in 2014, could not get it financed, couldn't get it off the ground. Basically 10 years later, the technology improved so that we could actually, I thought I was going to have to put the car in a flatbed and drive it around Vancouver. We actually did end up shooting Vegas in Vancouver, which is quite funny because, again, you can do that with imagination. But yeah, it was just such a long process between writing it, the scripting was quick. We shot all the miniatures in 5 days. We shot 3 days of plates, and we shot 10 days with the actors. And so they were burning through that script. Like it's a tough grind. But we spent, I think, the last year and a half in post production just to get the look right because I didn't want it to look like there's a thing about looking gritty and there's another thing about looking cheap. And I didn't want it to look like, you just put a film plug over top of it to be like, hey, it's green. My colorist, Gary Shaw, took almost a year just to get it to look right.
Yeah, because it looked absolutely perfect. It felt like a Kill Bill like film. That's
Thank
how good
you.
it looked.
Thank
So my
you.
so my next question is the casting. The casting is absolutely perfect. Where
Yeah.
did you get this cast from?
Oh, they are, well, Brian McKeag, I actually met on a short film, and we actually the first film that I shot in a volume wall. And funny enough, I had the script kicking around. I had someone else in mind, and the more I thought of him, I was thinking like I had seen Midnight Cowboy, I had seen, Billy the Kid. He's got that Chris Christopherson, almost like Kurt Russell sort of vibe. And I was like, oh, he looks like a 1970s movie star. And yeah, and so he looked at the script. At first he was like, it's not quite right. So I ended up rewriting it for him and with his input. And so yeah, and actually the car is his dad's. So that red Ford Galaxy is actually his dad's car.
That is amazing because that car was badass.
It is, and it rumbled like it had a purr to it. So it was funny because again, it was in Manitoba and we're in BC. That's four provinces over. That is essentially driving from Minot to California. So we had to get this car out there, and it was hilarious because his dad. It's a dad thing. He was driving around with the miniature in his car, so he had a little car in the big car. So that miniature is what we actually ended up using as we ended up buying three of those same miniatures because we had a wreck. We had to gussy up some of them, and so yeah. Instead of getting real Ford cars, I went to eBay and I bought a whole bunch of 1/18 size diecast models.
That is awesome because if it honestly felt like a real car through the entire movie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's seriously movie magic is how I think of it.
And you said this was your first film in how long?
Whew, I did. I mean, I don't know if I count the Bring It On, Cheer or Die because that was a studio film and that was basically a seventh installment. So that was my first and only time working with the studio, and I that was a different experience. It wasn't an indie film. The one before that was 2020, and it was The Curse of Willow Song. And so this one's my fifth film.
So what's it like being back on the grind again?
Oh God, I love it. I missed it so much because Curse of Willow Song came out in 2020, and then we had the pandemic. So the film got to travel, but I did not leave my kitchen table. So it was a weird time, just the film had sort of a liminal feeling, and I was stuck. So whereas here, it's the Armageddon road trip, is what I think of it. Like I'm taking this film on the road. We're going through film festivals right now, but we're also doing limited sort of theatrical. So we're actually touring small repertory theaters and doing like event screenings. We have a boogie red carpet. We do the screening, and then we actually bring the miniatures with us. So you get to take pictures with the miniatures, and the cast and I are actually traveling with it. So
That's awesome. That just sounds like a great experience.
it was really fun. We had our opening in in I guess on Wednesday. God, that's 2 nights ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. But it was really nice. We sold out the theater, and everyone came out dressed in their 70s. And I actually said, hey, if you don't want a Q&A, we can just mingle in the lobby. And everyone stayed put. I was shocked. I was like, oh, they actually want me to. Because you never know with like what I hate as a filmmaker is holding people hostage. There's nothing worse. Like you're sitting there and just talking at them, and I don't know if people are interested in how we did all the rigging, and they were apparently. So
Wow, that has to be like the utmost, like for you knowing that your film is being appreciated by everybody, basically in the same room with one another.
yeah, it's really I'm glad you watched it, twice, but I really realized that the film is meant to be seen with people in a grindhouse theater if you can manage, because it should feel like sticky popcorn, and it should actually you should be able to laugh with people because there's a lot of I don't know whether or not until people start laughing, you realize there's permission to laugh. It is there's dark comic elements all the way through, and I am embracing the slight camp and slightly kitschy quality that's there.
When you're watching your film, do you often watch the crowd to see how your film is being perceived by everybody?
Yes, yeah. Except for this film, I normally don't like to watch my films. After the first few screenings, I'm in the coffee shop across the street, and I'm just pins and needles, and it just makes me really queasy. But this one, I've been really enjoying with the audience because it is a little horror adjacent and not quite as hardcore as some of the earlier films, and I think there's a little bit more where I want to know what jokes land and people's reactions to things. Like I wrote this in 2014 and we filmed it in 2024 and now it's 2026. And some of the things that I put in there didn't make sense back then. Like, for example, oil shortages, gasoline problems, gas prices being high. And I was like, and I remember explaining this to my crew. I said, well, back in 1976, there was an oil embargo, there was an OPEC problem, and there was a crisis. And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then this time round, when I was showing the film, when it got to the gas station scene, people actually went, and it was, because our gas prices are ridiculous in Canada, and so I don't know what they are right now in the U.S., but it's yeah. So it's the
They're
sticker shock.
they're too high, trust me.
Everything
Still
is too high. Yeah.
still above $4 over here, so your
Wow.
your joke was right on the money.
Yeah, and it was interesting because when we filmed in 2024, the idea of, war, like pestilence, famine, all of the ideas that are in the film, we weren't thinking of that. We had just gone through the pandemic, sure, but I wasn't thinking of anything else. And then, 2025 basically and 2026 erupted, and now the film it's August, and I feel like, oh, now the film landed in the right place.
Like now that you say it about experience your film in a grindhouse, now I feel kind of cheated that I don't get to do that.
Oh, we need to find out how I need to find out what rest like because we haven't done the US in the same way. We're just doing Canada right now to see how it works because again, I've never been a distributor before. So my business partner Kate Kroll and I, um, she's also the producer of Armageddon Road. We got a Canadian distributor to do our, the VOD and to do the Blu-rays and that sort of thing. But the theatrical part, we took back to do ourselves. And so I'm learning as we go. So it's like, oh, I hired a booking agent and they booked the theaters. You know what I mean? Like I hired PR. And it's so interesting because we're working with this team and again, I'm not used to working with so many people who do these sorts of things. And I myself, I've been doing social media because I haven't been able to find anyone else to do that. So, it's become a full-time, marketing has become a full-time job, which I never thought would happen.
Oof, that just sounds like a part-time job on top of a real job. It feels like
Yeah, it is. It actually is. And bless the content creators out there because I did not know how hard that work is.
it's a job. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
So, is there a possibility that you could take this on the road to the United States? Because if you come anywhere close to me, I'm gonna have to show up.
Oh, I would love to, and so long as my phone doesn't get confiscated, I think we're good. That's my only main worry. But it's sort of mapping out and finding a booking agent in the U.S. as well to see if they want to take us on. And so because otherwise it's a lot of cold calling by me. I think there's people who are better at it than that.
So, do you already have a VOD date for your film?
No, we don't. And so the
Oh,
thought I had was that I wanted to travel around with it and see how much interest there was. And then I want to, like, again, I've never done this before, but we're doing a combination. So we're going to be at Popcorn Frights virtually. So for the next week and a half, I guess from August 7 to 17, you can watch it anywhere in the US, VOD, if you buy a ticket through Popcorn Frights. And then we are playing in Mexico City at Macabro Fitch in August 21st, and then we're doing Toronto September 3rd and 4th. But after that, what we wanted to do is travel around and then also see whether or not we wanted to do a Blu-ray because I have all this behind the scenes footage, documentaries of what we actually did to put it together. And I wanted to do like a totally loaded like Blu-ray with like all the specials. So
I love behind the scenes on a Blu-ray because
yeah.
it feels like I'm there
Yeah.
watching the film be made. So
Yeah.
yes, please Blu-ray.
Yes, and then also don't forget the audio, it's the director commentary, so you get to watch it with like we get to, nerd out on the technicals if you want to hear it and it's I've always enjoyed that. I'm a bit nerdy that way. I like that.
I love director's commentary. Like none of my friends love the commentary. I love watching films with commentary, just hearing
Me
the
too.
like the background story. And
Yeah.
people, but a lot of people I feel don't like that anymore.
Well,
It
but they
feels like
don't
it's
have
all
to,
tape.
right? Like it's an option. I just like the
Yeah,
fact that there's an option for nerds like, well, us. We can watch it and they can skip through it. I watch it.
yeah. It's us over here and the people that like subtitles and closed captions over there.
Yeah. How do I put it? It's us and then the people who are wrong.
I love that. So before I let you go, where can people follow you and stay up to date on your VOD dates, your Blu-ray dates, and your tours?
Well, since I got kicked off Facebook, you can follow Armageddon Road Movie on Instagram, and we're updating regularly. That is me, and you can message there as well if you need information. So that is now that. Unless you want to follow me personally, and because I no longer have an account, I am my cats, and this is embarrassing. I am Mateo underscore Sophia underscore, and you'll see two twin tuxedo cats, and they're mine. I'm now basically two cats in a human suit. Let's just, yeah,
So you're in a costume, which is fine.
yeah, yeah. I
so
look human, but I'm actually two cats.
so this is gonna drop Tuesday. So everybody go buy a virtual ticket, watch this movie ASAP because it deserves all the love. It is fantastic.
Thank you.
Karen, thank you very much for joining me. I cannot wait to talk to you again.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.